Now guys, I know for the past few days, the focus has been on our exotic weapons. By the way, if you missed any of those, feel free to check out our playlist down below, which includes everything we got to play with during our game preview of the Final Shape. Today though, we're gonna be going over all of our Final Shape weapons that we saw there, including their perks. Now I do wanna mention that this is a dev build. Things are always subject to change before the launch of these expansions, but we got access to a lot of different things and a lot of different perks. And one weapon many of you brought up in our previous videos was the rocket-assisted frame sidearm that is also a strand weapon known as the Call. And this weapon is just like Indebted Kindness, it's just strand, therefore placing it into that top slot. Now before we get too deep, let's discuss the origin trait that's on these Pale Heart Destination weapons. This one being cleverly named Dealer's Choice. Final blows with this weapon grants a small amount of super energy. Equipping multiple weapons from the Pale Heart increases this effect. Now we were actually sitting here and looking at it, and with one weapon equipped, this looks to be about a 1% bump in super energy per kill. Two weapons, it looks to be around 2.5%. Now, unfortunately, I didn't use 3 weapons at all, so I couldn't see, mainly because I normally had an exotic weapon on, but I would assume this would probably go up somewhere around 4%. Now, in terms of the random rolls that you can get on the Call sidearm, in our third column, we have Lead from Gold, Slice, Beacon Rounds, Demolitionist, Stats for All, Subsistence, and Strategist, which is a new perk launching with the Final Shape. Now, Strategist reads, final blows with this weapon generate class ability energy. Activating your class ability briefly improves the weapon stability. Now, I did get to play with this weapon in that particular role a bunch. Unfortunately, it was during a session when we weren't allowed to record, but let me just say it was synergizing beautifully with the new Ascension aspect for Hunters, which greatly depends on us having our class ability. Now, for our fourth column perks, we have Desperate Measures, Adrenaline Junkie, Vorpal Weapon, Golden Tricorn, Multi-Kill Clip, Hatchling, and One for All. Now, for those wondering, will this be a craftable weapon? I'm almost certain that it will be craftable, considering that we did see a couple red border versions. With that in mind though, guys, there's a lot here that's going to be perfect for the Call, and of course, synergizing with Strand. Whether you're leaning into that Slice roll with Hatchling, you've got Lead from Gold, which has fantastic ammo economy, or you're leaning into Strategists like I was doing to feed back into that class ability. I used this for a second inside of PvP, but I'm still not that crazy about this archetype for PvP. This is definitely more of a PvE weapon for me. It's so hard to say which role is the best here because there's just so many good things that's present on this sidearm. And just from my time playing with it, it was one of my favorite weapons during our preview. Next up, we have Axial Lacuna. This is a solar precision frame fusion rifle. Now, column 3, we have Corner, Keep Away, Reconstruction, Threat Detector, Firmly Planted, Eye of the Storm, and Demolitionist. In our fourth column, we have Surrounded, Kickstart, Control Burst, Incandescent, Desperate Measures, Vorpal Weapon, and Frenzy. Now, I actually used this fusion rifle more in PvP when I played with it, and I thought it was pretty good, and I wasn't even using a PvP role. Obviously, things like Keep Away or even Firmly Planted with Kickstart would be really, really good. As for PvE players, Surrounded, if you can get Surrounded to proc, is always a good one. That Surrounded Reconstruction role would not be bad for us to consider inside of damage phases, which considering it's a solar weapon can synergize with Solar 3.0, we can proc things like Radiant, we can extend it with solar weapon kills. I'm thinking Axial is going to be a pretty solid one. Next on the list, we have Bold Endings. This is that Stasis Heavy Burst hand cannon that so many of you have seen gameplay of, and I know everyone has been asking, is this going to be the hand cannon to replace Warden's Law, especially considering kinetic weapons are being dialed back in comparison to their Strand and Stasis counterparts. Now, according to Mercules, on the Firing Range podcast back in February, there should be another heavy burst hand cannon that's launching with the Final Shape. Now, Mercules mentioned in that same podcast that this archetype would be getting stability buffs and an intrinsic bonus to the frame, which reduces incoming flinch. Now, look, I don't know if this is like a new buff alongside what this archetype already got buffed earlier this season. What I will say is that Bold Endings felt good to shoot, like genuinely. And unfortunately, some of the gameplay I can't even show you as that's still under embargo. But just take my word for it, guys. It feels good to shoot, and I really like the sight. Now, onto its perks. In column 3, we have Headstone, which is a perk you usually find in your fourth column. We have Rapid Hit, Attrition Orbs, Strategist, Loose Change, as well as 2 more new perks, one being called Air Trigger, and the other one, To the Pain. Now, I'm going to start with Air Trigger. This increases ammo reserves. Also, when airborne, accuracy and reload speed are increased, but target acquisition is decreased. Interesting perk. As for To the Pain, this reads, while this weapon is equipped, taking damage increases handling and aim assist until the weapon is stowed. Taking more damage increases this effect. Almost sounds like Eye of the Storm, right? But it persists, at least until you stow your weapon. Now, in our fourth column, we have Collective Action, Golden Tricorn, Eye of the Storm, Demolitionist, Desperate Measures, Moving Targets, and Dragonfly. This too is also also interesting because as far as I know, this is the first darkness element weapon to roll with Dragonfly. I know we got Firefly, and Firefly is its own thing with kinetic weapons. Dragonfly, though, is only seen on those weapons in our elemental slots. Now, in terms of combinations that I'm looking forward to trying, Rapid Hit, of course, is going to be juicy considering it's a burst fire weapon. You'll get those stacks very quickly. To the Pain is also another one that I'm curious about. It gets stronger as the gunfight drags on. But in that third column for PvE players, probably Headstone or Rapid Hits. Those are probably going to be the ones I'm going to focus up on. For that fourth column, for PvP, Eye of the Storm, especially that Eye of the Storm Rapid Hit roll is going to be really good. Collective Action is also going to be a good one considering you can directly synergize into those Stasis Shatters with Headstone. Create a few shards, give yourself a buff. But probably the one I'm most curious about is Headstone and Dragonfly. That particular roll is pretty interesting considering you'll create a Stasis Shard from that precision kill. But at the same time, Dragonfly will proc that AoE damage, thus shattering that Stasis Crystal. Either way, I'm very excited to give this one a go. Moving on, we have a Solar Vortex Frame Sword. This one is called False Idols. In column 3, we have Strategists, Attrition Orbs, Wellspring, Unrelenting, Duelist Trance, Incandescent, and Relentless Strikes. For our fourth column, we have One for All, Surrounded, Chain Reaction, Bait and Switch, Vorpal Weapon, Counterattack, and Collective Action. So another Vortex Frame Sword to throw in here, guys. This one being Solar, though. And yes, we've got Incandescent right there staring us in the eye. I'm thinking an Incandescent One for All roll could actually be pretty good. Considering Incandescent does the AoE damage, it procs One for All, and boom, you've got 35% more damage. Surrounded is also not a bad one if you can keep the perk up. Chain Reaction is also present here. And yes, you can do Chain Reaction Incandescent and just go full on explosions. Like, don't even worry about a damage buff. Just go in there, get a kill, double up on explosions, and watch everything die. Next, we have Pro Memoria. This is a Strand Aggressive Frame Machine Gun. Yes, you heard that right, guys. Aggressive Frame. This is a brand new machine gun archetype, and it fires at 600 rounds per minute. Now, in column 3, we have Attrition Orbs, To the Pain, Reconstruction, Envious Assassin, Demolitionist, Strategist, and Hatchling. Now, that's beautiful because we can pair that alongside a damage perk in column 4. We have Frenzy, Dragonfly, Tap the Trigger, Bait and Switch, Collective Action, Desperate Measures, and Target Lock. Honestly, guys, there's a lot of good things here. I love Hatchling machine guns. One of my most used machine guns from this past season is the Marcato 45. And that's primarily because you can get Hatchling and it's a strand weapon. Not only can you get Hatchling on this one, but you can double up. You can give yourself Dragonfly, which gives you the opportunity to net yourself more kills. Bait and Switch for that damage buff. Desperate Measures, which you could synergize into a number of your different strand builds. And of course, your normal ones like Frenzy, Target Lock, etc. So for my folks that never got that God Roll Marcata, Pro Memoria will be waiting for you. Next, we have Embrace Identity. This is a Void Adaptive Frame Sniper Rifle. In column 3, we have Permeability, Destabilizing Rounds, Rewind Rounds, Opening Shot, Reconstruction, Attrition Orbs, and Demolitionist. For our fourth column, we have Redirection, Precision Instruments, High Ground, Moving Target, Box Breathing, Elemental Capacitor, and 4 times the charm. Now, a quick side note about its stats. It does have 46 zoom, which is odd. Well, not literally, but it is odd in comparison to what our zooms normally are. Like, we're used to 40 zoom on things like Beloved or even 45 on things like Eye of Soul. So the fact that this one is 46, I don't know if that's like a dev build thing or not. Regardless though, you've got some great rolls here, guys. For my PvE players, Rewind Rounds, Precision Instrument. Hell, you can go Rewind Rounds 4 times the charm, literally shoot forever. Opening Shot, Moving Target for PvP players. And don't overlook perks like Redirection, which we very much love on things like Succession, as you can get rolls like Discord and Redirection together. Next up, we have Someday. This is a kinetic precision frame shotgun, putting it in the same archetype as things like Matador and Fractashite. I actually use this a little bit inside of PvP as well, and I really like this. In column 3, we have Dual Loader, Strategist, Threat Detector, Loose Change, Lead from Gold, Elemental Capacitor, and a new perk called Threat Remover. Now, this is a new one. It states that dealing damage with all bullets in a spread increases reload speed, handling, and stability. Now, obviously, we don't know what those stat bumps are, but I would hope it's substantial, considering we have perks like Threat Detector, which gives you a massive bump in handling just for being in close proximity of your enemies. Then for column 4, we have Collective Action, Opening Shot, Barrel Constrictor, Vorpal Weapon, Recombination, Swashbuckler, and Cascade Points. Without a doubt, guys, for my PvP players, that Opening Shot combo with either Elemental Capacitor or even Threat Detector is going to be extremely deadly. And then for my PvE players, you can always go the route of Recombination. Cascade is kind of an interesting one. And look, there are times where pellet shotguns are pretty good for damage. For instance, on Oryx, normally the guy who's applying Tractor Cannon is rocking double pellet shotguns. and he's just sitting there spamming shot to shot. But again, to me, guys, this is more of a PvP shotgun. Now, last up, for our playing card weapons, we have the Solar Support Frame auto rifle called No Hesitation. Now, this is a new archetype called the Support Frame, but it shoots at 600 rounds per minute. Now, the Support Frame archetype reads, flexible and agile frame capable of healing allies and hurting foes. Now, harming targets build a restorative charge. Hip firing at allies while this weapon is charged heals them, with rapid healing increasing weapon damage and bestowing restoration to your allies. Now, I was using this, but unfortunately I was playing solo, so I wasn't able to really try out its healing effect. But we did get to see this in the Vidoc, as well as other sources, and it seems like the healing is pretty potent. And you can see here, it has the same bar on it as like glaives do. And this was picked up from the Vidoc, where it charges from any damage. And it's gotta be a pretty strong weapon, considering its nickname is the Don't Die gun. Now, for perks in column 3, we have Strategist, Subsistence, Ensemble, Grave Rob, Demolitionist, Overflow, and a new perk called Physic. And it reads, rapidly healing allies grants restoration to you and your allies. Now, this of course beautifully synergizes with the auto rifle itself, considering what you're going to be doing is healing allies. So I'm assuming this is going to double up with the archetype of the weapon itself. Then in column 4, we have Surrounded, Desperate Measures, Disruption Break, Frenzy, Patrician Orbs, Incandescent, and another new perk called Circle of Life. This perk reads, rapidly healing allies grants this weapon a period of increased damage. Now guys, without a doubt, that perk right there beautifully synergizes with this auto rifle. That's literally what you're doing. And considering Physic grants restoration to you and your allies for rapidly healing them, that in combination with the damage buff from Circle of Life, dude, it's just a match made in heaven. The other thing I have to ask, can Attrition Orbs proc on you healing your allies? Attrition Orbs is a perk that states dealing sustained damage creates an orb of power. I would think it wouldn't proc, but it also comes down to how things are coded. This is one of those weapons, guys, that we're gonna have to spend a lot of time playing with. Considering Bungie is calling it the Don't Die gun, I'm gonna assume it's pretty strong. Now, moving on to some other legendary weapons we got to look at. For one of our Nightfall rewards, we have this Strand Adaptive Burst Linear Fusion Rifle called Scintillation. Now, just remember, guys, these are our 3 burst linear fusion rifles. They're currently called aggressive frames, but in the final shape, they're gonna be moved to this new archetype called Adaptive Burst. Still the same weapon, still the same damage, it's just different nomenclature. Now, in column 3, we have Rapid Hit, Rewind Rounds, Slice, Cornered, Auto-Loading Holster, and Envious Assassin. In our 4th column, we have Hatchling, Reservoir Burst, Bait and Switch, Firing Line, Attrition Orbs, and Surrounded. Now, in terms of perks, there's a lot of great options here and some very unique ones. The fact that it has Reservoir Burst is wild. This is the first linear fusion rifle in the game to have Reservoir Bursts. And with it having access to things like Bait and Switch, this makes it only the 2nd linear fusion rifle to roll with that perk, outside of Cataclysmic from Vow of the Disciple. The difference here is that Cataclysmic is a precision frame linear fusion, whereas this is our Adaptive Burst linear fusion. Now, in terms of origin traits, we have both Vanguard's Vindication and Stunning Recovery alongside Vice Stinger. Guys, I'm very excited to get my hands on this one, especially roles like Envious Assassin, Reservoir Burst, or even Surrounded, Bait and Switch, Firing Line, all of the above. Everything here looks really juiced. And if you didn't want to go that Envious Assassin roll route, you've also got Rewound rounds. Now, for our other Nightfall reward, we have Shadow Price. This is an Arc Precision Frame auto rifle that has made a return to us. I didn't really look at this one too much. In column 3, we have Overflow, Strategist, Attrition Orbs, Stats for All, Surplus, Invisible Hand. Then our 4th column, we have Volt Shots, Surrounded, Gut Shot Straight, Permeability, One for All, and Demolitionist. Now listen, we have seen so many variations of Shadow Price over the years. Volt Shot though, fantastic. Stats for All, an easy proc on top of each other. Really good. For my PvP players, probably Surplus is going to be your best bet, especially on prismatic classes, where you can pretty much keep up a constant ×3, and maybe Gut Shot Straight. Now, the next weapon that we got to play with, and we actually utilize this in a number of different play sessions, including PvP, is of course Better Devils. This is our Crucible reward going into the final shape. Now, Better Devils is a classic one. This one, though, has returned to us as a Strand Adaptive Frame hand cannon rather than a kinetic. In column 3, we have Pugilist, Demolitionist, Air Trigger, Reconstruction, Rapid Hit, Rangefinder, Moving Target, Perpetual Motion, Slice, Perfect Float, Slick Draw, and Enlightened Action. I know, ton of perks. Then for column 4, we have Deconstruct, Adrenaline Junkie, Swashbuckler, One for All, Opening Shot, Kill Clip, Explosive Payload, Zim Moment, Hatchling, Frenzy, Gut Shot Straight, and elemental capacitor. Now, in terms of origin traits, we have one quiet moment and Nadir focus. Now, listen, there's a lot of things on Better Devils that in theory it looks really, really good. But fellas, the competition is stiff. Now, that's not to say I'm not going to utilize this weapon, especially inside of PvE. With it being a strand weapon, it has a chance. But inside of PvP, it's going to be a tough one. I use this a little bit, and I still prefer Midnight Coup, Rose, and a number of other exotic hand cannons. Granted, if we get the God roll here, I'm more than willing to be proven wrong. Now, the next weapon on the list is another classic, an old pinnacle weapon from back in the day, Hush. This is a solar precision frame bow, and this is going to be our Gambit reward for next season, or I guess next episode. For column 3, we have Hipfire Grip, Shoot to Loot, Archer's Tempo, Impulse Amplifier, Strategist, Attrition Orbs, To the Pain, Offense Strike, Unrelenting, Corner, and Pugilist. Column 4, we have Archer's Gambit, Successful Warm-Up, Frenzy, Surrounded, Harmony, Vorpal Weapon, Swashbuckler, Wellspring, Adagio, Explosive Ed, Golden Tricorn, and Incandescence. And for our origin trait, we have Gun and Run. Now, let me just say, I got to play with the Archer's Tempo and Archer's Gambit combination, and it was nuts, guys. The speed that you can pull off with that combination is wild. And really, when it comes down to that fourth column, there's just so many great options, from Explosive Head to Incandescent to even Surrounded, as crazy as that sounds. But in my playtime there with Hush, it felt so good to use it again. Granted, we do have a lot more competition these days than what we did back then. In terms of bows, Pre-Astenix is my favorite solar bow in the game. You've also got bows like Tyranny of Heaven, Under Your Skin, Pointing the Stag, Vengeful Whisper, Rancateur. I mean, there's just a lot of really, really good bows now. And that's not even all of them. So Hush is definitely going to have to be bringing it here. Now, for the final legendary weapon that we got to look at is another classic from back in year 1 of Destiny 2, Origin Story. This one is returning to us as a kinetic precision frame auto rifle. So pretty much exactly how it was. For third column perks, we have Slime Waste, Demolitionist, Hipfire Grip, Zim Moment, Discord, Attrition Orbs, Feeding Frenzy, Keep Away, Threat Detector, Fragile Focus, Dynamic Sway Reduction, and Strategist. For our fourth column, we have Snapshot Sights, Swashbuckler, Target Lock, Kinetic Trimmers, Onslaught, Gutshot Straight, Eye of the Storm, High Ground, Surrounded, Pugilist, Harmony, and Rampage. As for the origin traits we have here, it's Vanguard's Vindication, as well as Nadir Focus, which might actually pop off here on Origin Story. A lot of decent rolls here. At the same time, just a lot of different traits, right? Look, I love Kinetic Trimmers though. Attrition Orbs with it as well. You got Demolitionist. For my PvP players, Keep Away is a solid pick, paired with either Target Lock, Onslaught, hell, even Eye of the Storm. Now, that is it in terms of the legendary weapons that I got to look at. But we do know a few more weapons are coming. They mentioned in the weapons tuning blog post that Criminal's Dagger will be returning with Iron Banner. Something new, which is our Solstice hand cannon, is also going to be returning. Some other weapons we got to see, though, include the Mahez HC4. This is a hand cannon. The Yaravit MG4, a submachine gun. Both of these have similar wording to Year 1 Amalon weapons. We also got the Dead Grammari, a shotgun, which sounds like a Castoid weapon. The Suspectum 4FR linear fusion rifle, definitely a Vice. Controlling Vision, which is a sidearm from back in Season 1, and used to be a dead orbit weapon from way back when. And this is going to be a field-forged weapon, which should give it that field-tested origin traits. Then Domino, which is a solar adaptive frame sniper rifle, which we had back in Season 2. This was actually a reward from Likshmi. We also got the Truth Teller, a void light frame grenade launcher. We first had this back in Season 1. It then got reissued in Season 11 with random rolls, and now it looks to be back again. And this time around, it should have the field-tested origin traits. And lastly, we got Adverse Possession. This is an Arc Precision Frame Scout Rifle from Season 2 and was a new Monarchy reward from way back when. It's also a Suros weapon, so it of course is going to have that Suros Synergy origin traits. Now, these last couple weapons are really interesting to me because they used to be faction rewards. I'm not saying factions are coming back, but I am curious why they are bringing these weapons back when, if you paid attention to some of the lore surrounding our skimmers, we have another faction stirring. So for my lore guys, something for you to get excited about potentially. Or this is just going to be some more world drops. We'll see. Now, lastly, we also know that the old Season of Dawn weapons are returning as well. I didn't get to look at these or get any footage, but an interview with Chris Proctor from Games Radar revealed that they'll be coming back. Not sure if all of them are coming back, but Chris did mention in that interview that we are getting more weapons from episodes since they are longer, now being around 4 months long instead of 3. Now, keep in mind, this also kind of lines up with what Bungie has already previously disclosed and what we've seen in other trailers, but these weapons include things like Steel Feather Repeater, Patron of Lost Causes, Perfect Paradox, Breach Light, Gallant Charge, Marty's Retribution, Line in the Sand, and Trophy Hunter. Just want to say here, guys, big shout out to Fallout for supplying some of the perks that we were actually missing here. Guys, if you want some great content, his channel is linked down below. He does a lot of great testing, and he was the only one smart enough to level his gear. during the legendary campaign while playing at Bungie. So go show them some love. So guys, that is everything we have right now on the weapons coming in the final shape. Of course, there's going to be a lot more than just this. This is just what we got to see. Let me know in the comments below what we may have missed and which one of these you're most excited for. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching. And as always,
slap that like button like your mama told you right.